First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer. How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Ganji, host of Tier Talk. Great video coming your way today from Russ Hamilton. Russ Hamilton is going to give you his perspective on the 4 dangers in corrections. Again, it's an effort to create a dialogue. I think these are great dangers that we need to be aware of that may not be on the top of our mind, and Russ is going to explain that. Sometimes our biggest concerns may not be the most immediate danger, and I think that Russ broke out this video at the right time because I was just looking at some of his dangers, and number 2 hits home for many of us. It hits home for many of us. So guys, when we come back from our sponsors, I'm going to give the video over to Russ, and Russ will go over his 4 dangers in corrections. I would love to see some dialogue on this too, some discussion to see what dangers you feel we should add. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell is going to notify you every time I post a video. Stand by for our sponsor. When we come back, we'll discuss 4 dangers in corrections.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Hey there, Tier Talk fans and Keepers of Chaos. Russ Hamilton here. So, got this video I'm going to do for you, and I was letting the marble in my head roll around a little bit, and I thought, I want to put a couple of things in perspective, so to speak, in corrections. And so I thought we might discuss what I came up with as what I see the top 4 dangers in our profession are. So I wanted to put those in a list and give you those 4. And I'm going to start from the bottom and work toward what I think is the top. Now, needless to say, there's some discussion to be had here, some difference of opinion. And what I came up with really was sort of the thing that we think about the most with regards to danger is not necessarily the thing that's most likely to get us. And what I mean by that is, we always think about inmate attacks, and we should be thinking about that because we don't want to become complacent and we don't want to forget where we are on any given day. But in the grand scheme of things, that's rarely the thing that actually takes one of us down. That's not to say, once again, that, it's not something that we should not be mindful of, but there's other things to consider. So I'll start with this list, and then I'm going to go into a couple of personal stories, personal experiences with these 4 different things, right? So starting number 4, I've put that in there, inmate attacks, all right? Number 3, bloodborne pathogens and other diseases. Number 2, suicides, and what I consider the biggest danger in our profession, stress-related maladies, like heart attack, hypertension, strokes, panic attacks, anything that's caused by the stress that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, going back to that number 4, right, inmate attacks, and then to immediately from that, because it's all in the same story, these first 2 are at least, is bloodborne pathogens and other diseases. So, anyway, me and my partner, I was, heading down to the yard office, and my partner, he pulls me over. He says, "Hey, I think something's going on in G-Dorm." So I'm like, well, let's go check it out. So we go down there, and we get in there, and I see that the officers in there, they're looking around like something's going on. And definitely something is up because of the way the inmates are acting, the way they're looking. But it's not like they're focused on each other. And so we were kind of like a little bit of a stand still, because it didn't look like we had any real like STG groups or anything like that that were ready to square off, but it was definitely tense. So we start looking around a little bit. After a couple of minutes, my buddy comes over and says, "Hey, I think it's this guy over here." And I said, "You mean you think it's just this one guy?" And he says, "Yeah." "Okay, we'll go check it out." So we go over there, and my partner asked the guy to stand up and can we talk to him outside for a second. The guy says, "Sure, no problem." Puts his shoes on, and we open the side door of the G dorm so we can step outside. And the first officer walks through, and my partner walks through, and this guy spins around and clocks my partner right in the head. And he goes down. And anyway, I start back. I try to step in between them. And at this point, me and this guy, we're just trading blows, right? So anyway, my partner tries to get up off the ground and gets my belt, kind of anchors me into a bad position. I end up taking a bad black left eye to the whole thing. Then at that point, while we're still in this unbelievable, just furball of activity and flying fists and everything else, just as I'm trying to turn this guy around and trying to get to him, someone comes up from behind me and another staff member and accidentally takes me out of the thing completely with a baton strike to my leg. So at that point, I hear my partner screaming, and it's because this guy has my partner's finger in his mouth and he's chomping down. And at that point, another officer is rushing in there, and he's like looking at me like, "What do I do?" I said, "Grab something and twist." And so he reaches down there and manages to grab this guy's scrotum and twist and forces him to let go of my partner's finger. So at that point, we did manage to get him handcuffed and whatever. Turns out that I've got some kind of, don't know exactly where it came from, blood spray all over me, right? Plus my own black eye, plus my partner's had his finger bitten, plus, I've got a baton strike to my leg, all bad things, right? So this is just something that can happen on any given day. Now, the officer, and I just have to mention his name, that saved the day there was Officer Earl Scott. He later was feloniously killed in the line of duty when he was shot during a traffic stop, because he later went on to become California Highway Patrol. But these are dangers that we face all the time. We can get hurt in a situation by things that usually wouldn't hurt us, like another staff member. My partner ended up with a bit finger. The guy turned out that he'd previously tested positive for hepatitis. So that was no good on that. I had a blood spray pattern across my face that came from the inmate sometime during this flurry. What can you get from that? Well, I mentioned hepatitis. We have to worry about whether an inmate has AIDS or not. Those are some of the bloodborne pathogens. And then you don't know whether this person might end up having tuberculosis or something else that can be transmitted. So needless to say, all of these things add up to not just a physical threat, but they can put more stress on you. So we've got inmate attacks, we've got bloodborne pathogens, and then number 2 that I've put in there, of course, is a big killer of us. The thing that gets us far more than any inmates do is suicides. Now, the first time that I was made aware that there was a suicide problem in corrections, I had just started, only had, maybe a year or so in, and an officer that I worked with at San Quentin, I worked with this guy every day. He was found in a hotel room, and he had climbed up and anchored off a bedsheet and had killed himself. And as things came down through the years, it seemed like I ended up knowing or hearing about more and more people that had done this. Till at one point, the last adult institution that I worked for had a bunch of, off-site fire camps, which is one of the things that they managed. And it so happened that there was an officer out there with the same name as mine. And we weren't any relation or anything like that. But he ended up killing himself on grounds, actually, at that fire camp. And I'll never forget, because it was like 6 or 8 months later, someone from one of the other fire camps down south came back and saw me, and he says, "I thought you killed yourself." And so that was just another way that it ends up, anchoring it back that, these are really people that we know. These are our friends. These are our brothers and sisters in this profession. And that's something that we should always be cognizant of, that we should always be wanting to reach out to them to do what we can to stop this. Now, on Keepers of Chaos, if you're over on that side, I think the best trainer that we've got over there with regard to staff suicide, of course, is John Mendebor. So if you're on that side of this equation and you want to know more or you need some help, you could look him up. But as always, I'm always available, or I can point you to someone. We always need to take time for our fellow brothers and sisters. So moving on from the suicide thing to stress-related maladies, heart attacks, strokes, hypertension, which is just, high blood pressure, panic attacks, all those things. This is the thing that is so insidious that it could kill any one of us. This profession that I love, I really do love what I've done over the years, but there's an insidious part of it that can get in there, and it can stress you out to the point that you come down with all sorts of illnesses, heart attacks, blood pressure, strokes, all those things. And then on top of all that, it can weigh you down so much that we've seen what I just talked about before with regard to people feeling they have no way out and committing suicide. But these ones, you never even think about those ones killing you, because they're the ones that come around and suddenly it's over with. I can't begin to tell you the number of officers that I know that have had heart attacks, panic attacks, ended up with high blood pressure and all these things that just comes from the day in, day out stress. You get attacked by an inmate, or the fact that you could be attacked by an inmate, it puts you under stress. The fact that you can end up, under investigation by IA for things that you never even thought of doing, that puts you under stress. Some of your bosses, some of your administrators, that can put you under stress. The fact that you poked your finger and nearly ended up with a bloodborne pathogen, that can end up putting you under stress. We really need to find better ways to mitigate all these things. If you're out there in the public and you're hearing this, maybe you never realized what a correctional officer goes through at any particular point in his career. The divorces, the child custody battles, those things, and I've been through those things, especially divorces and child custody battle. I mean, that really, really impacts and puts a dent in, your mental armor. And sometimes it's a thing that some of us don't recover from. Now, I was lucky enough, I recovered. For whatever reason, I had the sense to reach out, but not before I did some damage to myself in that respect, with maybe regards to my career and so forth. Let's watch out for people, each other. Let's, bring ourselves together. Let's show better unity. Let's defeat these 4 monsters that face us. Now, some of these things we can manage. To a degree, we can manage, inmate attacks a little bit. We can maybe get some better tools. Maybe we can be a little bit more cautious. Maybe we can do some things on that. And the bloodborne pathogens, certainly, universal precautions. Be careful when you're searching. Everyone knows these things. The suicide thing, all we can really do on that is watch out for our fellow person. There are people that will not reach out. Some people will. And then on the stress related maladies, be mindful of what you're doing to your body. Eat right. Don't abuse alcohol. Don't abuse drugs. work out, live life, enjoy it. Life is good. So anyway, those are just the things I wanted to illustrate with a little bit from my own personal perspective. I hope that everyone else can, join in the discussion a little bit, maybe talk about a little something that happened to you, or just, put it out there that you're here for your fellow brother or sister. Anyway, this is Russ Hamilton. Stay safe. I'm signing off.